Rev up your engines!
Well, if you think about buying a used car, you might cross Tesla off your list because even Consumer Reports says that Tesla is one of the least reliable used cars you can possibly buy. And I have to agree with that sentiment for various reasons. I'm a mechanic. I check those things out. Let's say you're going to buy a Tesla that's got 100-something thousand miles in it. Well, so if the battery has no warranty left on it and the battery goes out, there's $15,000 up you're going to have to pay to get a factory replacement original equipment battery. Try to find somebody who knows how to work on Teslas. That's another completely different ball game. Hardly anybody works on them. And try to find an honest mechanic to check out the used Tesla for him. And that's just as hard because most guys don't have the equipment to check them out. You got to have a fancy computer like I have and an adapter cable that adapts it to the plug that Tesla has, since most of them don't have OBD plugs. They got different plugs. You got to put adapters in. You got to know how to use the equipment. And so the worst thing about buying a used car is you don't know what shape it's in. So you have to pay a good mechanic like myself to check it out. Well, if you can't find a mechanic who knows how to check out a Tesla, don't ever think about buying one used. You're not getting any kind of guarantees on hardly anything. It's a used car, right? Now, Consumer Reports says, and I quote, Tesla is one of the least reliable used car makers in the United States when measuring 5 to 10-year-old cars. So you're going to get a good used car. The 5 to 10-year-old cars, you get the best deal price-wise generally. That's the stuff I normally always buy because their value is plummeted, especially if they're 10 years old, but they could still be a good car, right? So you can really get value for your money. Well, in the case of a Tesla, no, you're not getting value for your money. It turns out that they said the Model 3 and the Model Y are just 3 points away from the bottom of their list. Bottom of their list, by the way, is Dodge and Chrysler. No surprise there. So I have to say, for once, I agree with these consumer guys. If you're ready with Dodge and Chrysler is amongst the lowest reliable used cars to buy, maybe listen to them, listen to me, and don't buy one of those things used. You'd probably be luckier getting a Dodge or Chrysler. At least people know how to work on the things, right? And they know how to check them out, tell you if they got a problem or not. But with the electric cars, very few people know how to test them out. They'll tell you if it's good or it's bad. And then if it doesn't need fixing, very few guys actually work on them. All right, here's the companies that make the least reliable cars. And now I do have to say, I agree with what other people have said for once. A lot of times I think people don't know what they're talking about. But what's the least reliable one? Chrysler's. They top the list as the absolute least reliable cars. And what's number 2? Dodge. Same company, right? What's number 3, though? Tesla. Okay, I agree with that, too, you know. And number 4, another Stellantis product, Jeep. 5th is Ram. 6th is GMC. 7th is Ford. 8th is Kia. 9th is Chevrolet. And 10th is Hyundai. Now, I got to say, I pretty much agree with that. Those are pretty unreliable cars over time. I find it hilarious that, you know, the whole bottom is really populated with Stellantis vehicles. And then the Stellantis CEO, he says, oh, well, Jay, I don't know. Why aren't we selling cars in the United States? I think I'll come to America, which you did, and try to make it better. Well, maybe make your cars better, right? That's the problem. They're not reliable, and people aren't buying them. That's why they know they're unreliable. You can only give so much advertising horse manure. People don't really pay that much attention to advertisements as they used to, especially now since a lot of people don't even watch them. They got them blocked on their phones. They watch stuff like Netflix where there aren't ads. So the advertising doesn't affect people's brains like it did when I was a kid, when there were only 3 TV stations and a local newspaper where you get all your ads from, right? Internet, do a little research and say, gee, you know, Charlie had a Chrysler. It was a pile of crap. They rated them as the worst cars out there. Gee, I don't think I'm going to buy one of these things. Well, GM's at it with their lack of quality. Now they've released their engine block contamination fix for the Yukon 5.3-liter V8 engine. Big old engine, right? Turns out that certain 2004 Sierra 1500 and 2024 Yukon engines have a condition where the engine block is contaminated. Now, they say they're going to inspect them, and if they're contaminated, they're going to replace the engine as necessary. That's their solution. Yeah, no fooling. doing? No, duh. You built the engines wrong. You're going to have to replace them. Now, Toyota had that same problem with their V6 twin turbos in the Tundras and one of their Lexus vehicles, and they're having to replace 100,000 engines. Now, GM, they said, well, we'll inspect it, and then hey, garbage. What are they going to do? Oh, well, we don't see any contamination. Oh, what are they, Superman? They can see inside an engine? No. And let's say it was contaminated. You changed the oil, and the contamination is gone now because you changed the oil in the filter, and it's new, but the contaminated metal was in there, and it's already damaged the engine. They should be forced, just like Toyota, to replace every stinking one of these engines that they put in those vehicles because they didn't build them right in the first place. At least Toyota went up to the plate and said, okay, we're honest. We screwed up, we replaced 100,000. GM says, no, we're going to look, and if they're contaminated, we'll replace the engine. Hopefully with a non-contaminated one. This is why I tell people, don't buy these things. These companies do a crap job building them. Then we'll see if yours was contaminated, right? And they have to say, oh, no, it's not contaminated. Of course, they're going to be pushed at the dealerships to say they're not contaminated. They'll just start the engines up if they sound good and don't make any rattling noises. Oh, that one's okay. Give me the next one. Oh, that one's okay. They're going to tear the engines down to see if the bearings are worn? Of course, they're not going to do that. That takes a really long time. They should be forced to replace all those engines. Toyota came up to bat and said, yeah, we're going to replace them all. GM should do the same thing with their engines. Well, you may not realize this, but Uber doesn't let Tesla Cybertrucks drive in its Uber fleet. So you won't be getting an Uber or Tesla Cybertruck coming in anytime soon. Uber's never going to tell you what the reasons are, so you got to make a kind of conjecture guess on that. I'm assuming, one, they cost a lot to insure. They're expensive. They're super fast, so right there, you got a danger aspect to it. Now, people do rent Cybertrucks, and then they charge a lot of money, but this isn't Uber. When I made the video on a Cybertruck, the charity in Chicago rented the stupid thing in Boston, drove it to me, and then took it back, and they paid something like $1,000 to rent the thing for about half a day. Had it, took it back, and then he had his grandkid with him. He's taking his grandkid to a camp there anyway, so was on the way to Maine where the kid's camp was. When you drive an Uber around, you can't charge people, $300-400 a ride, or you're not going to get any takers. And of course, economically, it doesn't make much sense because even if you rent those things, even on Turo, you're lucky if you're going to make the monthly payments on the stupid thing. After what everybody takes off, Turo takes their cut, everybody takes their cut, insurance takes their cut. Right? So the person who owns a truck really isn't making all that much money. And as I've said in previous videos, you got to be real leery if you got a car and you want to rent it through one of these companies because the liability is astronomical. They can say whatever they want, but let's say somebody rents your Cybertruck and they kill someone. They can actually come after you because insurance goes with the vehicle, not the driver. So the insurance that's there is your insurance. And if somebody gets killed, it's not just the insurance company. They can sue you personally, too. I would stay away from renting my car through Turo if I had an expensive vehicle, right? And so these guys would have to give so many rides in a Tesla Cybertruck, even to pay for their monthly payments, make your head spin. Now, these Uber owners, they're the true believers, right? In the religion of Tesla. And they say, Cybertruck is the safest vehicle on earth. Well, there's nothing to prove that. It hasn't been out long enough, right? There's absolutely nothing to prove that. But hey, if you really want to ride around in one, Lyft allows them. Now, I don't know what rates they give, and you might check with them, but they absolutely have to ride around the Cybertruck. Check out Lyft if you want. There's no saying what they're going to charge you, but hey, there's always competition. So here's an interesting article I just read. Americans are cooling on EVs, but warming to nuclear power. Yes, and that makes total sense. I've been saying that for ages. EVs are not ready for prime time, but nuke power creates tremendous amount of electricity, very little pollution, and if you didn't know it, the U.S. government just approved a new nuclear reactor for the first time in 50 years. Now, this will be the first fourth generation nuke plant. They're finally putting the new technology into use. The government, of course, they're all dead from the neck up, just like any other corporation. Really, the United States government is a corporation if you look at it. Just talk, but in the real world, they have no idea what regular people do. Well, finally, people are saying, yeah, we probably need some nukes to get some serious power. So, the first Generation 4 nuclear reactor will be the first built in 50 years that won't be cooled by light water. It's going to use molten fluoride salts. It's a new system. The Chinese are trying it out too. So we better not have a nuclear power plant gap. It used to be with the Russians. We don't want to have a nuclear bomb gap. Well, now we're not going to have a nuclear power gap with China because we're going to make these things too. And it only makes sense. They say it's going to be cleaner and safer than any nuke plant ever built in the United States. Now, interesting enough, Kairos Power that's doing it's a California company, but they're going to be doing here in Tennessee. I guess they figure they got a lot of experience with nukes from the TVA. There's still 2 nukes going in Tennessee that provide like 47% of the power in Tennessee, so they've been using it for quite some time. Hey, I'm all for it. It only makes sense. I was just by the biggest coal plant in Tennessee. That thing uses like 40 million pounds of coal every day. It's just insane the amount of coal that the thing burns. And this will be nuclear. It won't put all the smoke and everything out. And realize coal also puts out radioactive isotopes because it burns the coal at a high temperature and then they fall down to the ground. If you ever went to a coal power plant and find where the ash falls, if you got yourself a little radiation detector, I've done it. You'll see them. They'll start clicking away. You know, it's a good thing they're going to go to these nuke plants. I think they should hurry up and start making a bunch of them because there's a time lag. It takes them a long time to build and get these things up and running. And they better get their rear ends in gear before it's too late because we're not going to be supplied by solar panels and wind power the amount of energy that we use. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.